ton of coaching searches going on in the future. A few of them have already gotten cranked up. Many more are coming, and I'm going to walk you through what we're hearing. I'm going to walk you through just some headlines in the last couple of hours that have broken. At Arkansas, I'm going to give you a feel on this because there are different feelings amongst the Arkansas community and in coaching circles about what may happen here. The seat is hot on Sam Pittman. I don't think anything's been decided there. I know Trey Biddy and the folks over at hogsports.com have reported as recently as today the coaching staff's been in communication with their recruits, and they've reassured them, hey, we're not going anywhere. Now, if the entire staff were to get cleaned out, it wouldn't be the first time a staff gets cleaned out not too long after they reassured people they're not going anywhere. So my point is, I tend to believe that they think they're safe. I don't know that they're safe. And also, even if Sam Pittman's been told, hey, you're safe, they play FIU Saturday. They're favored by 29.5. If the borderline unthinkable were to happen and they lost that game, all that goes out the window. You're never totally safe, even if they tell you you're safe. It's kind of like head coaches that are, I'm not going to say dumb enough, maybe short-sighted enough to believe athletic directors and boosters when they get hired, and those boosters and ADs tell them, now look, we're going to give you 2 years minimum before we even start to judge your record. That's never the case. It is never, ever, 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 ever the case. Do not ever believe that. Because the moment you win your first big game, the clock starts ticking. You sometimes do yourself a disservice if you pull an upset in year one because it starts the clock ticking sooner than it should have. I'm a big believer that even though Brian Kelly's not on any kind of hot seat, I'm a believer Kelly did himself a little short-term damage by beating Bama last year because it led to, what will they be, Jesse, 9-3 this year? If they go 9-3, all of a sudden it's not good enough this year. You're like high on bath salts if you tell yourself 14 to 20 months ago, 9-3 in year two for Brian Kelly is not going to be good enough. Anyway, with Pittman at Arkansas, if you lose in upset fashion to FIU Saturday, even the people who are telling you you're safe wouldn't be telling you you're safe anymore. I think, though, what's happening here is a theory that I happen to ascribe to, and that is the personality theory. There is benefit to not being a jerk. There's benefit to not rubbing people the wrong way. Now, if you're a winner, it doesn't matter. And this is not advice I'm giving to the kiddies out there. I'm just saying, if you're a winner, you can be as big a jerk as you want to be because you're untouchable. It's just the way it is. But if you're borderline and you got a great personality and you're affable and people love you, sometimes that's the tiebreaker. Sometimes in a 50-50 scenario, that's what swings the pendulum 55-45 your way, and you buy yourself one more year. Maybe that's what's happening with Pittman here, because even the folks who want him fired love him as a person. No one dislikes Pittman as a person in Northwest Arkansas or, frankly, anywhere. So that may be in play here. Let's stay tuned. At the very least, he's going to have to clean the program out. He's going to have to hire a new OC, for example. We'll see where he goes. We had some more news all the way across the country out in Los Angeles earlier today. This one surprised me a little bit. So our partners at BruinReportOnline.com, that's our 24/7 Sports UCLA outlet, they're telling us Chip Kelly's likely to be fired after the USC game. And there is a very thoroughly multi-sourced and detailed report on Bruin Report Online right now. And it sounds like the reasons are laid out. It sounds like there's not a lot of meshing with the boosters out there. The NIL engine is not humming like they think it could. Kelly's just not Kelly's like me. Chip Kelly's like me. He can fake it in front of a microphone, but really in a social setting, you're a lot more likely to find him over in the corner hiding than in the middle being the life of the party. It's just not us. It is not us. Some of you listen to that and you say, if you paid me that many millions of dollars, I'd be fine rubbing elbows with boosters all day long. Okay, I'm just telling you it's a little bit different for folks with this kind of personality. So Chip Kelly is not necessarily making it a priority from sunup to sundown to ingratiate himself to people that couldn't talk themselves out of a wet paper bag when it comes to football. And it probably will cost him a job here. And I'm sure folks at UCLA are looking around. We're going to the Big Ten. We theoretically have a lot of this Southern California money we could tap into and alumni money that we're not getting because they don't like this guy who's the current head coach. I assume they've convinced themselves of that. Maybe they go get a Jonathan Smith. Maybe they go get a candidate I'm not even thinking about right now. But that's something that broke earlier today. We're going to monitor that one because, as you know, until you make the decision, everything's fluid. Until you hear the athletic director or the university release a statement, Chip Kelly is fired, everything's still in play. I wanted to touch on Florida for a second because I keep getting asked about Billy Napier at Florida. I told you the other day, pretty emphatically, I didn't think Billy Napier was on a 2023 hot seat. I thought his entire fate was tied to the 2024 season and, probably more importantly, the 2024 recruiting class, which makes what I'm about to say all the more imperative. The recruiting class has looked and felt a little wobbly lately. It is imperative that they are able to sell the notion to the kids in that 2024 class that results on the field this year are totally detached from what our future holds. It is the lifeblood of your future as a program, as a staff. It is your hope. Because there's nothing happening for you. You may not make a bowl game in 2023. They're going to have to upset either Missouri or Florida State to even make a bowl game. This season's a wash. It's a loss. That recruiting class is top 10, though, until it's not. And every staff out there is trying to peck and nibble, and you got to convince kids, hey, this year was the way it was because you're not on the team. We don't have your class in the barn yet. We get your class in the barn, and that's a different caliber horse out there running on Saturdays. You got to convince them, and then you got to keep convincing them every day. So I don't think Napier's in trouble this year unless that recruiting class starts falling apart. And there's a long way to go before it falls apart. I'm just saying in recent days we've seen a couple of decommitments. You hear rumors and whispers, which is not abnormal for this time of year anyway. It's just normally this time of year for a top 10 recruiter, you're not looking at missing a bowl game. That's abnormal. So special circumstances. Zach Arnett was fired at Mississippi State earlier this week. This one we knew was coming a few weeks ago. So as expected as it was, there was a lot of raw, visceral reaction. You had one camp that said, how could you fire a guy 10 months in? He didn't even have a chance. Well, he did have a chance this year with a senior-laden roster to maintain a lot of what had worked in that program, and he chose to go the opposite direction, and it failed spectacularly. And so he's out of a job now. Zach Selman's the new AD there. Arnett was not his guy, and it was obviously an untenable position. You have Mike Leach, the head coach, pass away, and you elevate because you don't really have a winning move to make there. I mean, it's almost on the back burner in terms of priority anyway when you have your head coach pass away. It's just no one expected it. It's just out of the blue one night. You're refreshing your phone, and Mike Lee, what? Is this fake? This is real? And then you have to worry about what you're going to do with the program because that's your job as an athletic director. So anyway, my feel on this job is unless they go a route that doesn't really involve the big boys, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second, Mississippi State may have to wait out what Texas A&M does, not because they're going to be fishing from the same pool of candidates, but like I told you, A&M's the keystone. You got to wait for the big boys to make their move before you understand what's available downstream. And that's not just head coaching. That is coordinators, that's position coaches. You're trying to fill out a recruiting staff. You're trying to fill out a bunch of positions that you don't ever see on the sideline on Saturday. Hiring is crazy. There are so many dozens and dozens of people that you have to hire, and when you got a behemoth like A&M about to make a move, sometimes you just got to sit there and wait it out. Like a big storm rolling through, you got to drive home. Let's just let it die down for a second. This is a torrential downpour. I don't want to drive in this. We could hydroplane. They're probably going to wait for a second. I've heard some names mentioned with Mississippi State. Let me tell you, not just with Mississippi State, but in general, John Summerall is a guy I would hire at Pate State. It is atypical for me because Summerall does not have a long track record at Troy as a head coach. He's just 2 years in. I am willing to circumvent some of my usual logic when it comes to him. I am that big a believer in Summerall. He knows the South. He knows the SEC. He's a dynamite recruiter. He is a top-level defensive mind and defensive coordinator type. And I'm telling you, someone's going to strike gold when they hire him. I don't know if it's going to be Mississippi State. Whoever ends up hiring him, going to enjoy what Troy's enjoying. You're just going to enjoy it tier 2 or tier 1 instead of tier 3 position like Troy. So that's what's happening right now. This kind of segment will be a fixture in this show for the next couple of months. Coaching search season is wild.